let's try this again. Hopefully you can see me now, if that works. If anybody is in here. Anybody in here at all? Nobody. Cool. Hopefully this starts working out soon here. I hate that I had to reset this again here today, but the camera decided not to work. So if you're here, let me know. Finally, the chat's popping up. We got a couple of people in here anyway. Alright. Every week I'm trying to make this a little bit better, and this week the camera decided not to work. So, does the audio work this week at least? Let me know if the audio is working. We screwed that up the first week, so hopefully we got that figured out now, and we just need to deal with video settings now. Alright. Evening everybody in the chat. Theron, Chainsaw, Custom RC Crawlers, Ashley Connolly. What's going on, everybody? I think tonight we will talk about Class 1 and how ridiculous I think the new bumper rule or the hard body rule is. So we can talk about that. TRD Adventures, thanks for checking in. All right. So what I worked on today, I've got my Class 1 truck in front of me. Vancouver, Canada. What's going on? I was working on something for the SCX10 Pro earlier since I don't have another Holmes Hobbies Progress winch, my internal spool winch. I did get one of the newer external spool. There we go. External spool winches, and I was working on a line guide to try to keep it from, keep the winch line from falling off. So the team drivers have seen this, but I was working on it some more today. But basically it's like a little clamshell, little half clamshell deal to try to keep the winch line from coming off. So that's going to go in my SCX10 Pro as a scale winch in the Pro. But it's nice and snug around the spool to keep the line from coming off. But this is just a regular FDM printed part. I'll have it printed in a better material. I got to make a couple little quick revisions to it, and then I'll get it printed in a better material than just printing on the 3D printer. So, because I hate it when the line comes off. That's one of the worst things about external spool winches is when the line comes off. It never comes off at the right time. It always comes off at the wrong time, and then it gets either wrapped around underneath the spool or it just kind of winds around and doesn't do anything nice. So hopefully I can get that going maybe tomorrow or maybe the following day. I'll start working on that some more. And then I also got what I've been waiting for my Class 3. My Hyrax LPs showed up today, so I can put the Class 3 together. I'm going to try to get these tires mounted up maybe tonight, probably tomorrow. I don't really feel like messing with it tonight. These are a little bigger in person than I thought they were going to be, but I'm going to mount them on a set of narrow super shafty wheels. So hopefully that'll narrow them up quite a bit. They'll go on some narrow super shafties, so that should squeeze them in quite a bit. Yeah, it's about time they showed up. That's facts. I've been waiting on these for a month and a half or so, but they're here. I will. I'm gonna mount them up with the stock foams first and see how I like them or how I don't like them. Go from there. But winch for your C1. Yeah, these new Holmes winches are nice. I'm just not a huge fan of the external spool, so that's my issue with them. Yes, smash the like, please. Absolutely do that. It is free to you guys and it helps me. So the more you guys like, the more likely I am to keep doing this. So anyway, Class 1. This is my Class 1 truck for 2023 Sorka rules. It is a carbon fiber body, a carbon fiber chassis, and F10 portals. And there has been a bunch of talk over the last couple weeks about the rectangles themselves and receiving hard body points, and it kind of came to a little bit of a shit show in one of the Facebook groups the other day. So there's been some conflicting information from Sorka committee members, and we've all kind of been wondering what the heck's going on with it. It seems like they have made a decision, like it or not. Personally, I don't really like their decision, but it is what it is. And the issue that we're talking about is, if you look here at the front, this is probably going to be difficult to show, but if you look at the front of the truck, where these fenders are, they do not protrude beyond the tread of the tire. The bottom of my grill does, and the bumper does, but apparently that is not enough. So what they're saying is that this gap between here, between this fender and this bumper, I'll have to fill that in with something. For what? Like, why? Filling that gap in isn't going to hurt or help anything. Even the F350 bodies, that seems to be what everybody's complaining about, the bumper still has to be in front of the tire. Like, what's the problem? Yeah, I know the link I posted didn't work. I started the live and my freaking camera wasn't working, so I had to reset, restart. So my bad, Kevin. I'll fix it later. It's part of learning, I suppose. This is only the third time I've done this, so yeah, F350 and Tundra definitely take the hit. Well, and the Jeep bodies do too, because the fenders do not, the fenders stop before the bottom of the grill. So they're saying that this gap between here and here is some sort of competitive advantage, which I fail to see that as any type of competitive advantage. What is that going to do for me? The bumper still covers it. At one point in the rules, it says that the body has to meet the rectangles to be a hard body, but then later in the rules, it says that you can use the bumpers to meet your rectangles. But you can use the bumpers to meet the rectangles, but you can't get hard body points? Like, I don't know. I agree it wouldn't look like a Jeep that way. If I got to fill that gap in, it's not going to look like a freaking Jeep at all. Like, it's going to look like some overseas mud truck thing that they're trying to, cover all the gaps and make sure mud doesn't get where they want it to be. Last night I cut the front of my Hilux completely flat. Yeah, so that's the other thing. So Class 1, I guess I'd have to look at the rules. Is a hard body required for Class 1? Because if a hard body is required for Class 1, you can get hard body points per rectangle. So if I'm not going to get front rectangle points, but I'm getting center and rear rectangle points, is it still a hard body, or what does that make it? Lets more airflow through to cool the brakes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. And then I saw a question on there the other day. Hard body's not required. I didn't think it was, but I wasn't sure. I saw a post the other day by a guy who I've been talking to in Messenger a little bit. He asked a question about the motor being slightly visible. You can see my motor hanging on the forward motor mount. And he asked the question whether that needs to be covered or not. And the answer to that question was yes, it needs to be covered. But again, why? Like, can you see the motor? No, you can't. If you look for it, you know, if you're really looking for it, you can see it, but you can't really see it. Like, it's... Why do I need to cover that? Do I need to make a 3D printed shroud? So covering it in a 3D printed piece of plastic is helpful, but you can't even see it. Like, if this thing is sitting on the ground and you're looking at it from a man standing above it and you can't see the motor, that should be plenty fine. You're not picking the thing up on the trail and going, "Oh, I can see your motor." Get out of here with that. I don't... Some of the things, like, I understand people take things beyond, and I understand that people push the rules, but this isn't that. This bumper gap is not that. This having the motor hanging off a motor mount is not that. So why are we nitpicking this stuff? Like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why we're nitpicking little things. I was just going to send you the motor question. Yeah, I like I said, I saw it asked the other day, and I saw the reply to it, and I'm like, but why though? So now I have to design and 3D print some black plastic shroud to go over my motor for no reason? Because you can't see it when it's on the ground. So why are we pissing with it? Let me know what you guys think. I don't think that it's I don't think that is very realistic, personally. I see one with the TGH shaft and motor is near impossible to hide now. Yeah, I mean, unless I 3D print a cover to wrap halfway around this motor, you know, I would have to wrap from basically the frame rail around the bottom over to the other frame rail. Unless you wrap that in a piece of, I mean, I guess you could use styrene, or like you did for your windshield, Tim, just clear packing tape, or a I guess probably not clear, but some sort of a black tape. Just make a diaper out of Gorilla Tape or something. I don't think personally that I'm going to even piss with the front gap. You're going to take away 4 points for my front rectangle. I'm just going to add 2 more scale points to the truck, and it'll be pointed out anyway, and piss on your gap rule there. Yeah, no, the Metal Masher bodies do not get hard body points at all anymore. They got rid of the loophole that we were using for the Metal Masher bodies. So, you know, literally the most scaled body that you could ever possibly have for a scale truck doesn't get hard body points anymore. So, would a piece of tape and a toilet paper tube work? As long as you can't see the motor anymore, I suppose anything would work. Whether it's a toilet paper tube or part of a water bottle painted black or yellow or gold or purple. I might do something, and I might use gold aluminum foil or something so that it absolutely stands out like a sore thumb. Like, you're not looking at the motor anymore. Now you're looking at something that looks a lot more ridiculous. I felt like this last week or so. The answers have gotten super picky. Yeah, it just... I think a lot of it has to do with them getting constantly badgered about the same question. But if that many people have a question about it, then you need to figure out why that many people have a question about it. And make it easy to understand. Don't just go, yep, this is it. Screw your feelings. You know. That's why nobody's running 2023 rules, apparently. You know. I just don't get it, and I don't see the point of being that particular or that picky on it. So you would think Metal Masher Body get more points. It did last year. It got custom body points last year as well. So, you know, whatever the hard body points were plus custom body points is what you got last year for them, which is why I ran one in Class 2 for most of the season the previous year was because you got extra points. So it was nice to get around the loophole, because like a Metal Masher Body, the cab and bed and the fenders and hood weigh less than a Lexan body. So realistically, you were getting, you know, hard body points for something that weighed less than a Lexan, but you had to do a lot of cage work to support the body because they don't hold any weight. If you roll a truck over with a masher body and no cage inside of it, it's a pancake the first time you roll it over. So there's a lot of weight a lot of weight gained in the cage work. So it came out to being similar weight to a hard body, but it got extra points because it was a custom body. So that's why I ran them. I've got my Bronco body over there. I could grab it if you guys really want to see it. And I think my Class 2 body's in the plastic tote right underneath it. But I'm in the early stage of the Class 1 build, run at Crawler Canyon, so it's Sorka Light. Was wanting to build a full Sorka legal to be able to run elsewhere. It's got me discouraged. Don't build a 2023 Sorka rules truck. The only place that I'm aware of right now, locally to us, I'm in northern Indiana, so the only place locally to us that's running any type of 23 rules is Canyon, and it's Sorka Light. So unless you were going to the Team Garage Hack event in Colorado in June, then there's no reason to build a 23 truck at this point. I hate to say that because I was one of the first ones to swap all my trucks over to 23 rules, and now I'm like, there was literally no reason for me to do that. So it kind of sucks. I hate feeling discouraged like that, but the last week, the rules updates and the rule clarifications via the Sorka page have kind of sucked. But C2 bumper width, I can see the confusion with its wording. Yeah, they never. I saw a couple people asking that question too. I didn't think it was that confusing, but after seeing the way the questions were worded, I could understand how people were misconstruing it. I didn't personally think to myself, man, I don't know how wide I need to make this. But yeah, after seeing the way people questioned it, I could understand it. I'm going to ECC, let's go. I don't have 2022 trucks anymore. I'd have to do a bunch of work to this truck. Not a bunch of work, but I would have to do some work to this Class 1 to make it legal. The Class 2, I could probably just throw it on course and it would pass, but the Class 1 wouldn't. So, can we just have some fun? Yeah. Man, I'm a big advocate for the Sorka rules. I think that a lot more places should run Sorka rules. Would make it a lot easier for everyone if every place ran the same rule set. But if they're going to be confusing, then it's hard to say, yes, everybody needs to run these. But there's no comps around me anymore, so I guess is what it is. Maybe someone other than Sorka needs to make some competition rules and make more sense. The issue is, it's not that the rules don't make sense, because the core of the rules makes a lot of sense. It's the nitpicky shit that anybody who's trying to be competitive is trying to read in between the lines, and then someone who doesn't understand the in between the lines looks at something and they try to recreate it, but they go too far with it because they don't understand the between the lines. Then questions start getting asked, and then a bunch of, I want to say it closes a bunch of loopholes when they clarify things, but a lot of times what they're clarifying just makes things more confusing. So it's hard to say that, yeah, there needs to be a whole new rule set, when at the core the rule set's great. It just doesn't. They tried their best to clarify stuff, but they're confusing people by trying to further clarify it, if that makes sense. Start our own comp series. There's no terrain around here is my issue. Like, if I'm going to start a comp series, I need to find somewhere that's challenging, and I don't think dirt hills are that challenging for a comp truck. If I wanted to build a brushless mud truck, it'd be great. We could start all kinds of series around here, but I don't have any rock or terrain around here worthy of making a comp series. So it kind of sucks. But I'll give you one. Yeah, I'm sure you would. I don't even. When is ECC? The end of May? I don't understand why they're not running 2023 rules by the end of May, but not my event, not my monkeys, not my circus. I voiced my opinion on that when it was announced via private message that that's what they were doing, and it didn't get me anywhere. Thinking about getting a muscle winch for C1 and running it, not at this next comp at Canyon, but in a few. I haven't ran the muscle winch, but it seems like a reasonable option. I just prefer direct power as my thing. I don't want to run an external BEC. I run 4S on everything, and I don't run any external BECs, so I direct power servos, direct power winches. And the muscle winch, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the muscle winch had a direct power option. So that's why I didn't choose that from the beginning. We were thinking about going to ECC, still planning this year's events. Alabama's always a good time. The event location's fantastic. And it's absolutely worth our 11 or 12 hour drive to get there. But if my trucks aren't legal, then what's really the point of going if I'm going to have to change stuff? I think the Class 1, other than my tire coverage, I think if I add like 3 millimeters per side on the front fenders, my tire coverage would be within. And if I do that, if I add tire coverage, it should meet 2022 rules. Because I had to make the front bumper wider this year to meet the inside track width. The front bumper was, I think I had to add 4 millimeters to the front bumper. So I think the front bumper is good. It should be good. I don't have my calipers here to measure it. But I think the issue with this Class 1 would be front tire coverage. So maybe some Gorilla Tape or something would get it through. But I don't know, Josh. We can talk about that. I don't know. I'm just kind of discouraged right now with it. I really want to run it, but I really don't want to add some stupid crap across the bottoms of my fenders to touch the bumper, because that's just going to look silly. I don't want to be discouraged by it. I like having fun with my tiny trucks. So when you get a little discouraged with it, you're like, well, why am I even mad about this? They're tiny trucks. This is a hobby. This is the fun thing to do. This isn't the This isn't what we should be upset about. Let's just drive our trucks and have fun. But then somebody tells you, well, you can't have this. You can't have this little gap right here. That's against the rules. Why? Why is that against the rules? Doesn't make any sense at all. But I am glad these tires came today. For the Class 3. I know we're talking about Class 1, but I see these tires sitting here and I'm kind of excited about them. Build wings off the bumper and TIG weld them. I mean, I could, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want to add stainless wings off the end of my stainless bumper that already is heavier than I want it to be. And I don't want to have to carbon fiber. I don't want to have to get all my carbon fiber stuff back out and add carbon fiber to it. And I don't want to shoe glue craft foam to a carbon fiber body. Like, it just seems ridiculous to have to do that. Maybe do something like what Matt from SBG did last year on his C1 bumper. I'd have to look back and see what he did on that, but I mean, maybe I could 3D print some kind of a wing or something, but I just don't, it's not going to look right. It's going to look silly. Jeeps don't have anything that goes from the front of the fender to the bumper to cover that gap. They don't. So why do we have to do this? It just doesn't make any sense. The bumper already sticks out there. The bumper hits a vertical wall before the tires do. So what does it matter whether the body is, the grill of the body is in front of the tires. If I take the bumper off, the grill hits like a millimeter before the tires do. So like it's close, but the fenders sit back 7 or 8 millimeters from, if you measured from the bottom of the grill down here to where the fender is here, it's probably between 7 and 10 millimeters. I shouldn't have to fill, between here and here. It doesn't make, this isn't going to do any different. Thing I don't understand is the no shock hoops protruding through the bed. We run in tiny trucks, at least 80 millimeter shocks under the bed would be, yeah. Like, that's one of the rules that I don't mind that rule as much because you should cover them up anyway, but it's Class 1. So I understand that there are certain places in certain states that you see it more often, but in northern Indiana, the chances of seeing a Gladiator or a Jeep Brute driving down the road fully street legal with rear shock brackets and big shocks hanging out of the bed is pretty much zero. So, like, I understand the reasoning why they want you to cover them up. And realistically, if you want to get technical, having those things, last year's rules stated no major body mods. So, but you were allowed to cut the entire bed floor out of the drop bed and replace it with a super thin piece of Lexan with the shock mounts hanging through the bed, and that wasn't considered a major body mod, when it really was, because you literally cut the whole bed out of the body. That should be a major body mod. But we all got away with it, and everybody just kind of did it. Nobody ever said anything, and I used like the thinnest styrene sheet that I could buy to replace the bed floor. Yeah, the bed sides were a lot weaker, and yeah, I broke the sides of the bed side off at Nationals, falling off a cliff. But at the same time, like, the rule stated no major body mods, but we all got away with it. So I don't understand, what the I don't hate that rule, I guess is what I'm getting back to, is because realistically you don't see those driving down the road with shocks hanging out of the bed. Sure, there are states where you might see it, but commonly in the U.S., no, it's not common. The thing that I don't agree with on the drop bed points thing is the wheel well sizes. They limit the wheel well size to 1 inch from the bedside, when most of the bodies, most of the axle widths and most of the bodies, you're going to be 1.25 to 1.5 inches wide to cover the shock tower with a wheel well, and not have to do something like this where there's literally an individual, you know, there's a drop down. This is just a rectangle in here, and I did that on purpose. It's a rectangle. There's just rectangles in this drop bed covering the shock towers. It would have been much nicer if I would have been able to mold in this shock tower cover to the bedside and use that as like an inner fender. They could have made it look a lot more seamless. I could have made it look a lot better, but it would have been 1/4 inch too wide, and it would have no longer gotten drop bed points, which is super annoying also. Again, I'm not on the rules committee, so it kind of is what it is, but those are my complaints for the evening. So let's I'm done complaining about this shit. Let's have some fun and talk about fun stuff. If you guys want to know how I point this thing out, post up in the chat and I can go over. I think I've got the point sheet right here as how I pointed it out. If you don't want to talk about that, don't care. We don't have to talk about it. I did start mounting the body on my Class 3 hinged. I got to get the interior glued in. Get the interior glued into that body. I guess it's time to fully commit to gluing that in and not being able to take it back out. So, take this body back off of here. We can run down these points. So, I am counting this body. What kind of oils do you use on that sexy beard? Just regular beard oil. Just regular beard oil. I am counting this Jeep body myself as a custom hard body. Now, if a judge has a problem with that, they can buy carbon fiber sheet, and they can buy resin, and they can cut the carbon sheets, and they can lay carbon all day long for 3 days straight inside a body, and then tell me that they didn't custom make a body. So I personally am counting this as 15 points for the hard body. Again, I've got to figure out something for this stupid bumper gap deal because that's a thing. But personally, I believe this is a custom hard body because I had to do a lot of custom work to make this body. If it's not custom, then I've got to make up 3 points somewhere. So, Squints, hey buddy. If they don't count it as custom, I think I've got to make up 3 points somewhere, but that is not going to be hard because I've got a lot of room as far as scale points goes. So, hard body minus 15. Drop bed, it does have a drop bed. It is 1.25 inches deep. See? 1.25. That is to scale. That 1.25 is 1.25 inches tall. So if they have a question about that, it's right there. It's 1.25 inches tall. They can measure it all they want, but it says it's 1.25 inches, so it is 1.25 inches. So there's another 3 points. So we're at 18. Roll bar, minus 2. This is a brass, thin wall brass tube. Super thin, super light. So there's a roll bar, metal roll bar, minus 2. inside the interior, and you are not going to be able to see this on camera at all whatsoever, but I do have a brass roll cage inside here, same tubing as this roll bar. It has a vertical bar on each side, it has an A-pillar bar, it has a roof bar and a down bar, and it also has a bar across the front of the roof and the back of the roof. It is a full roll cage. So that would be -3 again for that roll cage. Front and rear bumpers, metal front and rear bumpers. So I've got a front bumper with a grill guard, and it's metal. And then I have a rear bumper, which is also metal, so there is -7 points there. 3 points each for the bumpers and 1 point for the stinger. 2-seat custom interior. There's a craft foam interior. It has a dash, it has a floor, it has 2 seats. It is more than 1 inch deep from the window to the floor. If you look inside here, there is a piece of styrene right here that is glued to the door. So I measured down from the window 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 from the window, bottom of the window to the where the styrene is, and I glued that in so I knew the depth was accurate. If they want to check that, it's going to be a pain in their ass because this interior is 100% glued in. But again, -6 for the interior, 2-seat custom interior, -6 there. -8 for the 2 skeletons, full driver and passenger. They are 6-inch tall skeletons. They don't weigh virtually anything, and they get full figure points. So there's -8 in driver and co-pilot. CMS and transfer case, there's 9 more points there. Yeah, see that? See it, dual servo mount, transfer case. -5 and -4, so that's -9. And then as far as scale points goes, how I have this pointed out, -1 for the winch, -1 for rotors. I have rotors on all 4 corners. -1 for the fair lead, -1 for the winch point on the roof, -1 for the tow strap in the bed, -1 for the D-ring in the bed, -1 for this battery up here, and that's 60 points. Now, again, if they want to get picky about the hard body being custom, I can make up those points with the there's a battery impact. There's a little impact. Then there's a hammer, an axe, and a duck in here. So I've got 4 extra scale points there. So if they want to be picky about whether it's a custom hard body or not, Fairlead isn't its own point anymore. Well, that's silly. Well, I guess there's one of my extra scale points that are glued into the bed, or my cup holder inside the interior. So if they don't want to count my Fairlead, that's fine. I've got extra points. And then, you know, if they take away my 4 points for my hard body for my front rectangle because I refuse to fill my gap, so even if they take away my custom body points and they take away my front rectangle points, I think I only need to add like 3 or 4 more scale points. So I'm not super worried about it. We all know how lightweight you can make scale points. Is the impact functional? Could come in handy. I wish it was. It's rather small. It's that little blue guy there. Anyway, I'm terrible with the camera thing so far, guys, so I'm learning. I'm trying to figure this stuff out. At least I got the mic working this week. Hopefully the sound's a little bit better than last week. Actually using a mic instead of the internal microphone on the camera, or on the laptop. So that's how my class 1 is pointed out. Should be, if you include the extra scale points on here, it's 64 points. So, nice work on that body, by the way. Thank you. This was my first time actually messing with carbon fiber. So laying all this carbon fiber and making sure I didn't have any gaps and making sure it was thick enough to meet hard body specifications everywhere, especially everywhere that they could measure, was tricky. And then I was going to do the drop bed in carbon. I printed this drop bed insert, and then I printed another one, and I made the other one in carbon fiber, but it was actually heavier than the 3D printed one. So I put the 3D printed one in and wrapped it. I didn't feel like putting the heavier one in there. And I've got all 4 windows in the body as well, so that if anything from the interior decided to come loose, it can't come out. Can't come out of there at all. So, and if I need to get into the interior, like when I put the winch point on the roof, I realized that I had not put it on the roof before I had the interior all glued in, and I needed a way to get a nut on the bottom side inside there. So I had to cut a hole in the bottom of the interior to get the nut driver up in there. But does it need to be 060 if it isn't vacuum formed? Yeah, they changed that rule this year because we all got around it last year. This body was hand-laid carbon fiber and vacuum bagged. It wasn't vacuum formed styrene. It was vacuum bagged carbon fiber. And it was like 0.02 thick and weighed virtually nothing. But it still got hard body points because it was hand-laid and it was vacuum bagged, not vacuum formed. So... But I knew that when I bought this body that it was only a matter of time before I wouldn't be able to run this body anymore. So when the new rule dropped, I went, yep, you got me. We'll just order a roll of carbon fiber fabric and schmooey it all together. Is that how you make one, is lay the carbon sheets inside like a Hilux to body to make one? Kind of, but no. To do it properly, you would have to make molds of the outside of the body and then lay your fabrics and stuff inside the mold of an outside of a body. It's a lot more work than just... This body was already custom made. So, in my opinion, this body was already a custom body to begin with. It was a handmade, non-readily available type body. So, the rules don't say anywhere that to get custom body points, you had to be the person to custom make the body. So this body was made by hand by a guy local-ish to me, and then I had to go through and rework it and make it all thick enough. So if this doesn't qualify as a custom body, I don't know what would. Unless you only count styrene bodies as custom bodies, in which case then I don't need those 3 points anyway. So, but that's how my class 1's pointed out. If you guys have any other questions about any of that, let me know. I like my skeleton drivers. They only weigh like 7 grams a piece and they get 4 points. So like I talked about a little bit last week, sometimes it's not about getting the points, it's about getting the points as smartly as you can, with as little weight as you can. So, people are still running roof racks. Well, the new rules, the roof racks are, they have to be spaced off of the body like 1/8 of an inch, and they have to be like 1/8 of an inch thick. And by the time you have an 1/8 inch, 2 inch by 3 inch, 1/8 inch thick piece of aluminum on top of the body, protruding 1/8 of an inch even higher, that's a real heavy, real awkward 2 scale points. Well, I can get those 2 points with 2 of these little weightless items down here. Or I've got 8 points inside here. So I don't have to run a roof rack and I don't have to run sliders because I've got these 2 weightless drivers inside here. So getting the getting the points as lightweight or as smart as you can is the trick. It's not getting the points. Getting the points is easy. You can hit 60 points with any body relatively easily, but it's doing it smart that makes the difference. Yep, you've helped me a ton with points this year. Thank you. Tim and I go back and forth quite a bit in Messenger talking about points, and I think we've both come to the conclusion that I think we both agree on the easiest way to get some of these points. Hunting for my skeletons. If you can't find them, they're super cheap on Amazon. I've ordered like 3 packages of them now. When I'm bending them, when I'm heating them up to bend them, I either heat them too much and they fall apart, or I don't heat them enough and I break them, and so now I've got a bunch of half-broke skeletons sitting around here. I could just glue them back together and stick them in there, but they're so cheap that I wouldn't even bother with it. Harley Designs has some good videos on how he's doing carbon bodies. Yeah, absolutely he does, and that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a ton of hours of 3D printing molds. It's a bunch of money in chopped toed carbon and resins and silicones, and it's a ton of work, and I can't fathom doing that. This was not anywhere near as sophisticated. I literally mixed up carbon. I mixed up resin and laid a piece of carbon fiber in, that was just bigger than this area of the hood, and wetted it down, and then I laid a strip in along the inside edge of the fender and along the fender and wetted it down, and did the same thing on this side, and I got the front section done, and then I did the same thing on the sides all the way back. Like, I just did it in little pieces, and I didn't use any type of molds or any compression or vacuum bagging or anything like that. I just kind of went along the good is good enough type of, and I don't think it turned out bad. It's a little wavy, but I don't think it was super smooth to begin with, if I remember right. And it's thick enough, and it's hard. Definitely a hard body. So you would hate my C2 truck then, starting to get chubby. Well, I am of the less weight the better crowd. Most of my comp trucks land in the 5.5-ish pound range. I don't typically run any brass weights or any bolt-on. I don't run any extra weight. The rotors I run on my trucks are super lightweight aluminum. They don't weigh virtually anything either. So I do a lot of tuning of the truck with weight placement instead of adding weight, and it seems to work out for me. The trucks drive the way I want them to drive. So didn't know that. I'll check there. Yeah, just search like 6-inch Halloween skeletons on Amazon, and they're like $9 or something like that for a 6-pack of them. So it's not even worth digging around in the Halloween decorations and stealing them from your wife. You just order a new set on Amazon and be done with it. Working on points videos tonight and tomorrow. Box full of bones, 1 scale point. It should be. Like, can I have a dead body in the back? Is that points? Got my Oracle order today. Yeah, so I saw your order come through. I have to, I guess I should apologize to some people. If you placed an order over the weekend or today, your order hasn't shipped yet, and it's because I had a hell of a weekend. My grandma lives with me. She's 82 years old, 83 years old, and Saturday evening she went with my mother and my aunt, or with my mother, over to my aunt's house, and slipped and fell in the driveway on her way in the house. And so we spent the entire day on Sunday bouncing between different ERs. Well, not ERs, urgent cares, whatever. And then this evening she had surgery to repair her femur and her hip. So I was out of the shop today for most of the day, and I was not available yesterday because I was doing that stuff. So I apologize that your orders haven't shipped today, but they will ship tomorrow. I have everything manufactured, I've got everything cut, everything boxed up, but I did not get back here in time today to actually ship them. And I don't do the I'll print a shipping label and ship it later type of thing. If you ever get a shipping label from me, it's because your order is actually packed up and ready for the respective shipping company to pick it up. So, yeah, sorry your order hasn't shipped yet, but it will ship tomorrow. With the new rules, does the leaf kit sit low for the new rules? Sorry for your grandmother. Hope she rests up. Yeah, she should be fine. I talked to the doctor today. She's out of surgery. Everything's great. The physical therapy people will check in on her tomorrow morning and see how she's doing, and whether she comes home tomorrow or the following day. We'll see. But the worst part about it is our house is it's a tri-level house, so the bedrooms are upstairs with a bathroom, and then the main level of the house has a kitchen and the main like dining room and whatever, and then downstairs is another bathroom, and that's the main living area, just like the TV and whatever. So there's stairs everywhere in our house, so it's really not the best layout for a woman with a fresh hip, but is what it is. As far as the leaf kit sitting low for the new rules, I don't know what sitting low would have to do with anything, other than like rocker to wheel heights, and you should be fine there. Just a matter of how high or low you mount the body and what size wheels you're running, but it should be fine. I don't have one in front of me here to check it, but I don't see why it wouldn't be fine. I think the body is to sit on top of the rims. Yeah, so at compressed ride height, of course, that's why the damn body wouldn't go on. Anyway, at compressed ride height, the rocker panel can't be above the height of the wheel, but it's at compressed ride height. So even if when it's sitting on the table, it's above it, it's at compressed ride height that they check it. So as long as when you push the truck down, as long as that rocker height is below the height of the top of the wheel, you're fine. So it's just going to depend on where you mount the body at. C2 and C3 are starting to get chubby. You can put them on a diet and change the C3 chassis. Crawler Canyon may benefit from a little bit heavier truck. The traction's at a premium there, so maybe a 6 or 7 pound truck would work well, but Lucas had that one 2.5 pound truck that he had working pretty well. That place is all about tires and foams, man. The traction doesn't mimic anything outside. So if you build a truck that crawls well on Alabama rock and you take it to Crawler Canyon, it's probably not going to go anywhere. If you build a truck for playing in the dirt on the trails, you take it to Crawler Canyon, it's not going to do very well. The traction there is its own animal, and asking the general public for help setting up a truck for Crawler Canyon is pretty difficult, because if you haven't been there, you don't know the traction. And if you don't know the traction, it's hard to tell somebody how to tune something. Rectangle rule. I watched a TRD Adventures video today. Yeah, rectangles are everywhere. It's rectangles, rectangles, rectangles. Yeah, it's compressed ride height. So it doesn't matter where it's at when it's extended. You check it compressed. Push down on the table. Sadly, I'm having to run a C1 Pro for C2 due to my body choices. Have you ever thought about adding another 4 inches to the back of a C1 Pro chassis to open it up for 6x6 rigs? I run a C1 Pro in Class 2 and Class 3, as well as Class 1. There's no sadly about that. That chassis works fantastic on 475s. Not going to have to worry about that at all. As far as adding extra length for 6x6 rigs, I guess I'll spill the beans a little bit. And if Wesley, if you're in the comments section, sorry buddy, I'm spilling the beans a little bit. But there are prototypes of the C1 Pro 6x6 as well as another 6x6 that the team drivers currently have that they are building and testing and verifying link lengths and stuff like that. In the chat, Josh Hibner has the C1 Pro 6x6, so if you tell him to hurry up, they may come out a little sooner, or he could just drop everything off here at my shop and I'll put it together for him. But yeah, there's no sadly about running a C1 Pro in Class 2 or Class 3. This right here is a C1 Pro Class 2 truck, and this is a C1 Pro Class 3 truck. See, Wesley is in here. I'm spilling your beans, buddy. Sorry. I can't show you guys pictures of anything, obviously, because, but we can spill the beans a little bit. This is raw, right? You ask the questions, you get the answers, whether you like them or not. So, that's the problem when you go outside. Your inside truck might work, but might not be the best. Yeah, like I said, man, Crawler Canyon is just its own animal. Unless you go there, it's hard to tell you what to do or what tires to run or what foams to run because it's totally different than what most people run. Good or bad, I personally like Crawler Canyon, but my normal comp trucks, the tire choices and the foam choices don't usually work all that well there. I need to change that stuff up to go there. And just the time difference and the 2-hour drive makes it difficult for me to get over there too. So I much prefer trying to get over there on a Friday for the comps, but I have to leave my shop at like 4 p.m. my time. So if I leave my shop at 4 p.m., that means I need to be packing up by 3 at the latest, which means I'm leaving 3 hours on the table as far as labor and getting things done around here. So it's kind of hard to shut down and walk away 3 hours early and then get home at 2 a.m. But I need to get over there more often, but it's difficult time-wise. Almost need to have 6 for each class so you can have inside and outside. Yeah, you really do. You almost need to have Crawler Canyon indoor specific trucks. It's just totally different than anything else. So you have outdoor trucks, you have indoor trucks, and that's the way it is. Does Steve have a 6x6 chassis? Wes, I don't know if Steve-O has the 6x C1 Pro or not, does he? I don't remember. Do you know how the Capra CMS works? Don't get me wrong, love. Yeah. I haven't ran CMS on anything in probably 5 years, so I'm the worst person to ask that. Everything I have has CMS. Oh, asking how Capra CMS works. Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. I don't know. I don't run Capra axles, so. But CMS is CMS regardless of what axle. But there are certain axle housings that will accept a CMS bracket, and there are certain axles that won't. Like the Chinese and Amazon Capra axle housings will not have a CMS bracket on them. The factory Capra axles, Team Garage Hack has a bracket to mount for the Panhard bar, and they seem to have good luck with that. I don't see an issue with it, but I haven't personally ran it because I don't run super wide trucks. Wanted to order a C1 Pro carbon chassis Friday, but missed out. So I have a bunch of carbon here, but I was trying to meter the Oracle chassis and high-lows and Pro V2s and the C1 Pros. So tomorrow, when I get everything shipped out that is pending, I will go back through my materials and see what I have on hand and what I can make with what's on hand. So there may be some on the site tomorrow. Maybe. I should have enough material here to add at least a couple of them. So I don't have... I try to do lean manufacturing, meaning I don't have a bunch of chassis sitting on the shelf that are already manufactured. I have material sitting on the shelf, and then I kind of just, like, I know how much material each chassis takes up, so I can kind of go, okay, well, last week we sold X number of high-lows, but only X number of Pro V2s. So this week I'm going to add more high-lows to the site than Pro V2s. And then I just kind of figure out, how many of each I can make with what material I have and at what ratio. So if there's ever anything that's not in stock as far as carbon fiber goes and you want it, message me, and I can more than likely I'll just change some inventory around on the website, because none of them are actually on the shelf. Like, it's what I can manufacture that day is what's on the website, basically. Negative. Yeah, I didn't think Steve had one, but I wasn't sure. Class 3 high-low is 6.6 pounds. That's a little heavier than what I would typically run. Now that you've spilled the beans on the C1 Pro 6x6, I need that in a 10x10. So, true story, we have made a 10x10 chassis before. Wesley designed and made one. How many years ago was that, Wes? 6 or 7 years ago. A guy wanted a 10x10 high-low, one of the original high-lows in a 10x10, and I don't know that it ever actually got built. I know it changed hands a couple of times, but I don't know that I ever saw it finished. The worst part about doing multi-axles like that is bodywork, because there are no 10x10 bodies, so you gotta get wild with it. Chinese capper axle housings break super easy. Yeah, they do. They're just cast aluminum crap, basically. They make the parts as cheap as they can and ship them. That's their MO, man. That's how they roll. So, Team Garage Hack with stock capper axles I was planning on doing because my capper axles are pretty narrow. Yeah, the TGH CMS bracket for the stock housings is fine. Made to order, I like it. Yeah, it's like I said, I don't want to have 25 or 50 of a chassis sitting on the shelf and then none of a different one, and the one that I don't have any of is what sells. So then you're stuck with, thousands of dollars worth of chassis sitting on the shelf that either move real fast or don't move at all, or just sell one or two here and there. So I just try to have material on hand and cut. I put in inventory what I can cut that day. So people that say, well, I check every day, well, you probably don't, because I update inventory levels literally every single day. So it's just what I can get done that day. That was me with the original high-low 10x10. I have a pic of it somewhere next to my bomber. Yeah, there you go. I wasn't aware of that, Brian. That's been a long time. I've been wanting to order a C1 Pro. Next week, definitely be hitting you up for one. Yeah, let me know. Like I said, if they're not in stock, I normally put one or two in a day, or 3 or 4 in a day, depending on what it is. I can only cut so many chassis a day just because of machine time and other things going on, whatever I got scheduled for that day. But I can make it happen. I typically always have material, whether I have enough material to get it done that day or whether I have to wait a couple days to get another order of material. I normally go through 6 to 10 sheets of carbon fiber a week, so that's quite a bit. At least 5 years old. It's out there, though. The package was 51 inches long. Yeah. Like I said, that 10x10 was quite a few years ago. It was quite a few years ago. It was pretty wild to see. But, I'm glad you're still in here, man. We appreciate you. That's pretty wild. I would have never expected that 5 years later, you'd be watching my ugly ass on a live stream and just randomly talking about it. That's pretty wild. So I appreciate that. That's pretty cool. Man, these Hyraxes feel pretty decent for the Class 3. I'm looking forward to getting these mounted up and put on the truck. I might do that tomorrow morning before I'll get machines kicked on and start machining, and then tomorrow's scale news update from Harley. So I'll watch scale news update while I try to mount wide tires on narrow wheels. That ought to be interesting. This might be a disaster waiting to happen. Oh yeah, this is gonna suck. The inner ring is in there. This is gonna suck to mount. I don't know about this, boys. That's that's gonna suck. Who wants to mount these? $20. $20. Anybody want to mount them for me? I'll mail them. Thought about running C1 Pro like your see-through capper axles and CMS. I don't see any reason why not to. I personally don't like the width of the capper axles. That's why I went with the F10 portals instead. Went with the F10s instead of Capras. It was just purely because of the width of the capper axles. It is a small world. My mind is just blown right now that I wouldn't $100. Yeah, dude, these are gonna suck. Now that I stuck that lock ring in there, I'm not looking forward to this. This is probably gonna be a disaster. I might have to change my wheel choice because, yeah, and these are even narrower than the original Hyraxes. Yeah. Benefits of using super narrow wheels with wide tires. You're going to stiffen the foams quite a bit by pinching the tire in, and you are going to gain sidewall clearance against your steering components. So like your rod ends and stuff at the ends of the axles. It's not this one. The tires I have on my SCX-10 Pro came off of a truck with just regular AR-44 straight axles. And let me see if I can get this on camera or not. Yeah, you can kind of see on the backside back here. That's not the shape of the tire. It's that the tires wore out from rubbing on the steering links on the rod ends. So by pinching the tire in that far, you're gaining that much more room between the sidewall of the tire and the steering components, as well as you are changing the contact patch of the tire. Instead of being contacting on like 1.5 inches or 1.8, instead of being contacted on 1.8 when you're going straight, you're going to be on the center like 1 inch probably. And then when you're steering, the tires with the caster that I personally run, when you steer the truck, the tire leans, and when you pinch the tire in, you change that profile. So when the tire leans as it steers, you end up with a 1 inch contact patch or 3/4 inch or whatever contact patch on either side of the tire as you steer, because not only is the tire doing this, but it's also doing this. So there's a bunch of different reasons, but those are my reasons. Still trying to get my 3D printer to work correctly. What 3D printer do you have? I thought you had an Ender 3, which should just be plug it in and run it. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. Unfortunately, I ended up selling it before completion due to having to move. Haven't seen it since, sadly. I've seen it probably 2 more times since you got rid of it. it's kind of hard to miss a 10 by 10, right? So I think I've seen it twice since you had it, but I haven't seen it completed either. I saw it with some axles under it, but I never saw it in a driving state. Have fun with mounting that. Harley, can you get your cardboard bitch to do this? That'd be fantastic. Because I don't want to do this. This is gonna suck. Wow, those are narrow. Yes, they are very narrow. What are these? Half-inch wide? Half-inch wide lock rings? Something like that? Zero my calipers. 0.527. So 525. 525 wide. That's real narrow. And the tire non-compressed measures 2.1 at the bead surface. So this isn't going to be all that fun at all. What wheels are those? Never seen any of that narrow. They are the Super Shafty, whatever these are. I don't know. Super Shafty 2.2s. They are rather narrow. Oop. That is the entire width of the wheel right there. It's all 3 pieces. What did I miss? You didn't miss anything really. Just my ugly ass talking about stupid stuff and complaining about Sorka points for the first 20 minutes. Complaining about bumper gaps, realistically. But so you didn't really miss a whole lot. I do have an Ender 3, but it's just not plug in and go. Been giving me fits, not wanting to put out a consistent stream of plastic. I don't know what to tell you there, man. My Ender 3, I assembled it and plugged it in, and it has worked flawlessly. I haven't had a single problem. I haven't even had a single failed print out of my Ender 3. So I don't know what to tell you there. If my Ender 3 stops working, I'm going to throw it in the trash can and buy another one. I don't think I'd even bother pissing with fixing it. They're reasonably affordable now, so I probably wouldn't even bother fixing with it. This tire I would use a 3D printed jig to compress before attempting. Yeah, that might be... I may end up having to print some sort of a jig in the morning to do this because the amount of foam that's inside the tire and the width of that wheel is going to make not using a jig probably a poor choice. But I am glad that these tires finally showed up because now I can finish my Class 3 truck that I'll never drive because I don't like Class 3. Unless these tires make me really like that truck. Because I've never built a Class 3 truck that I actually liked. So, we'll see. Hopefully I like it because I've got a lot of money in it. But we're talking about Class 1s tonight, aren't we? Harley, what do you think about the bumper gap shenanigans going on? I don't think that I'm going to fill that gap. Now that I've been, talking and thinking here on this live stream, I don't think I'm going to fill that gap. I think I'm going to give up these front rectangle points just as a screw you. I've got plenty of room as far as scale points goes, as far as like the scale accessories points go, that I may just not even care about the front bumper gap. Body to bumper gap. Waiting on my Hyrax LPs. Yeah, I got shipping notification on Saturday that my LPs shipped, and they showed up today. Unaware of these shenanigans. So the shenanigans now are, the rules state that to receive hard body points, your hard body has to fill the rectangles. Also in the rules, it states that your bumpers can fill the rectangles, but apparently, according to the Sorka committee, now, if you use the bumpers to fill the rectangle, you don't get hard body points. To get hard body points, the body has to fill the rectangles. So this gap, the body needs to go beyond the front leading edge of the tire. My bumper is beyond the leading edge of the tire, but this gap between the fender and the bumper would need to be filled to receive hard body points. Why? There's no competitive advantage, but this gap apparently between the fender and the bumper is an issue because the fenders don't fill the rectangle. Even though the grill fills the rectangle or meets the rectangle isn't filled because the fenders are back set 7 millimeters or whatever from the front of the grill or the bumper. So they're stating that you have to fill that gap. You see the point. I mean, I see the point too, but I've never seen a Jeep that had some freaking craft foam between the fender and the bumper to fill that gap. Have you? I certainly haven't. Just put some tape on for the day of the comp. I mean, if I have to, I will, but I think I'd much rather just ditch those 4 scale points for the front rectangle. And as a middle finger to the establishment, I already wrapped my truck in the rules. So, like, oh, even if the front meets the fender, but the fenders, yeah, the front of the grill is beyond the front edge of the tires, but the fenders are not. So basically the corners of my rectangle aren't met by the body. It says later in the rules that you can use the bumpers to meet the rectangle, but if the body itself doesn't meet the rectangle, then you don't get hard body points. So I would lose my front rectangle points because the fenders don't touch the corners of your imaginary rectangle, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. It's like we need a custom carbon piece to fill the gap. I've got carbon sheet and I could fill the gap with carbon, but I don't want to because it's ugly. That's my thing, is like, wouldn't be thick enough to hard body. Yeah, so you'd have to layer up some Gorilla Tape to be 060 thick to be hard body thickness. I didn't even think about that. Or 060 craft foam or something. It would have to be hard body thickness, and it would have to be rigid, I guess, to meet that. So, like I said, the more I think about that on this live stream here, I think I'm just going to forego those 4 scale points. I've only got 7 dollhouse points of the 14, so I've got 7 more dollhouse points I can add, and so I'm still within the realm of having a fully pointed rig without having to piss with technicalities. So, how many rectangle shaped bodies are going to be made because of these rules? Every single body needs to be a rectangle now, I guess. So, just start with the box that the truck comes in and glue it to something else, basically. I don't know. It is what it is. So I guess watch out for that on your Porsche bodies, since you're going through all kinds of shenanigans to make custom bodies. If you're going to make a custom body, make sure that it meets the entire rectangle and not that you're using the bumpers to meet your rectangle. Or just figure on not having those 4, I think it's 4, scale points for the front rectangle. Super annoying, but it is what it is. 2x6 is for everyone. That wouldn't be wide enough, or it wouldn't be thick enough. It needs to be thicker than 2 inches. It needs to be like 4.5 by 6. Cliffhanger SCX6 bodies for all class 1s. It's the new rule. That's the new Sorka rule. SCX6 cliffhangers for everything. The body in each section must fill the rectangle when viewed from above. Great. Cool. Thanks. Appreciate it. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. This is ridiculous. I get it. I understand that that's the way the rule's written, but why? The F350 and Tundra guys are going to have a real shit fit. But this Jeep is not... I'm not trying to push the rules with this body. But apparently, I am. I didn't realize I was, but I am. Yeah, I'm not reading that with no spaces. Bodies with inset grill or other bodies, blah, 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 blah. Can be covered by the bumper, winch plate, or vanity plate cover to fill the void. Yeah, can be covered by the bumper, whatever, whatever, whatever. But they're saying you have to fill that gap between the fender and the bumper. The bumpers are beyond the rectangle, so the bumpers should, like, regardless of, even if I took this body and slid it back an inch and a half and had an inch and a half between the bumper, or between the grill and the bumper is still the widest, or still the furthest out point. So I don't understand why. I don't know. I'm not arguing for it. I'm not arguing for it or against it either. I'm just saying, I'm stating my opinion that I think it's silly. I've never seen a Jeep on the road that had electrical tape covering the gap between the bumper and the fender. Is what it is. I did a fun experiment the other day. You should see what the cross section of some of these common bodies are. Interesting. I have never even thought about doing that. Fill the gap, but I can cut a body in half and be good. Yeah, exactly. You can narrow the entire body, cut it right up the middle and narrow the body, but you can't have an air gap between the fender and the bumper. God forbid. Terrible. Terrible. Now looking at my C1, I got some work to do. Well, I think everybody had work to do with their C1s prior to really getting technical about it. The rules weren't that difficult. They're not that hard to understand. It just, when they start going a little far with it, like, again, fundamentally, I don't have an issue with any of the rules. I just don't understand certain technicalities like that. Like, why is that a thing? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why that's a thing. But again, like I said earlier, I'm not on the committee. I don't write the rules. I just got to play by them. But not until next year, unless I go to TGH for in June. What if my body exceeds past my tire's leading edge? Do I have to worry about the gap? I don't believe so. As long as the body, as long as all four, as long as the body all the way across it from outside to outside is in front of your front tires, it shouldn't be an issue. But my problem is that the grill, the bottom of the grill, well, the grill is angled. It's hard to see on camera, but the grill is angled. So the bottom of the grill is touching the back of the bumper. But the top, like right here is where the fenders are, and the fenders are not in front of the tire. The entire center section of the body, the entire width of the grill, is in front of the tires, but the fenders are not. So, but the bumper is in front of that, so I don't understand why that matters, because you're going to hit the bumper before you hit the fender. So, yeah, I don't know. You guys got me all fired up about this damn bumper rule again. Overcomplicating the fun. It's exactly what it is. Overcomplicating the fun. Yep. I'm playing with this spool guard again. Probably going to end up breaking this prototype, but for those of you that didn't see, I made this little, I've got the Holmes little tugger servo winch, and I made this little spool guard that goes on here. It tucks right around the spool so that the line cannot come off. It captures, like, half or more of the spool so that the line can't come off. But I'm going to get this printed in some better material than just the PLA that was in my printer. 99% of the comps this year running 22 rules anyway. Yeah, they are, Wes. Other than the TGH comp in Colorado, I think pretty much all the bigger ones are. I know ECC's 2022 rules. Crawlapalooza makes their own rules, so realistically, they built 23 rules for nothing. Whatever. But I need a 3D printer. Yeah, it's nice to have. I don't utilize my 3D printer very much because I am impatient as shit. And it just is freaking slow. Ugh. I can't. I'm way too impatient. I've already designed the damn part, and I don't want to wait 14 hours for whatever. Like Harley's body molds that he's printing, I could not fathom the amount of waiting this man is doing to print these molds just to throw them away. Nope, can't do it. Not my thing. Not even on my radar of things to do. I can't. What scale figures are inside the truck? They are 6-inch tall Halloween skeletons from Amazon. Hang on. I just got a new package of them the other day because I order them all the time. So here's what they look like. Just a Halloween decoration. Each leg is movable. The arms are fixed. The head does rotate. So I just take a little torch, a little pencil torch, or even just a regular cigarette lighter or whatever, and heat up the joint at the knees and bend them where you want them. And then do the same thing with the elbows and the shoulders. Move them wherever you want them. And yeah, fold them up, stick them in the truck, and shoe glue them in. Yeah, they're 6-inch Halloween decorations. Plus cure time of carbon resin. Yeah, yeah. That's the easy part though. The impatience for me would be the printing of the molds. Letting the carbon cure, I think I would be okay with. It's just the listening to the printer buzz about for 24 hours to get a part that I'm going to throw away is ridiculous. Off topic, is that a Johnsford behind you? No, this is a Kia lathe. Hyundai Kia SKT21 LMS. Not that matters to anybody, but it's a live tool, dual turret, or dual spindle live tool lathe with a bar feeder on that end of it over there. Don't forget the silicone. Yeah, you got silicone cure time, you got carbon cure time, plus the painstakingly ridiculous amount of time printing the molds themselves. I couldn't. That's not me, man. That's not me at all. I couldn't do it. I feel like half of the time when I'm trying to 3D print something, I almost feel like half the time I could machine it out of a chunk of whatever Delrin or aluminum in the mill faster. If I've got open machine time, I feel like I could get it done faster that way than watching the printer buzz about 0.2 at a time. Just no. You can heat up epoxy resin to make it cure faster. You can, but I don't know. He's using 3D printed molds, so heating up the resin is heating up the molds, so I'm sure you would probably get some warpage or whatever. He's a Kia boy. Almost got hit by some today. It's a little bit different Kia. It's not the same Kia. This weighs way more than a Kia car. I'll tell you that. This lathe is like 16,000 pounds or something like that. 15,000 or 16,000 pounds, and then the bar feeder was another like 16 or 1,800 pounds. So this load was quite a bit. The forklift that they The forklift that the rigging company brought to get it off the truck was struggling, and oh, somebody just walked past the door of my shop at 9:30 at night. That's pretty interesting. The forklift that they brought, I didn't think was big enough when I saw it pull up on the truck, and I heard the one guy tell one of the other guys, like, "Oh, we should have brought the bigger forklift." It was struggling. About the same horsepower rating, yeah, pretty much. I think the live tool motor has about as much horsepower as a regular Kia car does. I'm happy with this machine though. I had never ran or programmed or set up or fixtured or anything a CNC lathe before I bought it, and it took me a lot of long nights reading all those manuals right there, and dicking around on the computer trying to write programs and stuff to get comfortable with it. It took almost a year to learn everything between. Well, it was basically a year before the first retailable parts came off of it, but it did take like a month and a half to get the three-phase power pulled to the shop. I was originally going to run it on a phase converter, but when the electrician came in and looked at what I had for a panel and what I had for available power, he was like, it's probably not the best plan, so we can talk to the city and see if we can get three-phase pulled to your shop. And then they went. The electrician that did this work I've known for a really, really, really long time. So he went to the electric company and did a like a load estimation. Basically, he's going to be running this machine, and this machine for X hours a day, X days a week, plus the furnace and air conditioner and computers and all the other crap. So they calculated the estimated load that I would have, and the way it was explained to me was if you can meet a certain estimated load, that they would pull the three-phase to the building for free. So from the power pole, they had to go like there was three-phase like 3 poles down from me at another commercial building, so they had to come 3 spans basically and then come to my building. But they did all that for free because I was able to meet their threshold as far as a demand. But I still had to have all the three-phase done inside the building. And by the time all the permits and all the crap, it was almost 2 months before I actually had power to the machine to be able to turn it on. So then another, 10 months of pissing around long nights and learning. But self-taught, I am not an engineer, I'm not a designer, I'm not a machinist. So the fact that I can make parts that fit is enough of a confidence booster to me. Don't forget the possibility of using wrong material for a body and having to start over. Turns out PACF is the right choice for what I've been told. Were you trying to 3D print a body and used a material that you didn't like, or what was up with that? When those trucks come together, they're pretty remarkable, even with the printing. Yeah, they do. How does the spool cover mount to the servo? It just mounts on the 2 regular. How do I get there? Yeah, it just has the regular servo bolts. They drop in on the sides and bolt on just like you're bolting the servo on. So you're leaving the lights on when you leave now. So that was the thing. The electrician told me, he goes, they're never going to actually check your load. So I don't think that I've ever met the estimated maximum load. I don't run the machines all day, every day. I just don't. I have enough work to do that I probably should, but I don't. And they don't run at night right now. So I haven't ever, I don't think, met their estimated load, but they've never said anything to me. I actually just got my bill for the three phase. So the three phase is billed separately from. I still have a standard, 200 amp whatever panel in here, and then I've also got the three phase panel for the two machines that run three phase. And I just got the one bill for the three phase yesterday, I think. Or no, Friday. I got that bill on Friday. And it was like $66 or something like that in electricity that I used for the mill and the lathe. So it's basically nothing. Send me that file. I'm sure Tim's going to want me to print one for him. I've got to make a little bit of a revision. There's one thing I want to do as far as the connection between like the hoop area and the, good grief, whatever. You get the point. Where the hoop area attaches to the bottom, I want to strengthen that up a little bit, and I need to open up the backside where these bolts go through. I need to open them up a little bit more to be able to get the head of the screw down in there a little easier. And then I'm just going to have them printed multi-jet fusion, just like our dual servo mounts are printed. So that's it's going to be a product. So I don't really want to just send the file away. I could, but there are some changes I want to make. I swear our power bill comes in the mail, and they're heavy from the ink they had to use. Yeah. The dealership I used to work at, he used to bitch all the time about, $4,000 or $5,000 power bills, and I'm like, I just don't understand how it's that high. But either they are billing me incorrectly, or I'm not using that much power. I know I'm not leaning on the machines as far as, spindle loads and things like that, but I do run them 4 days a week for 6 to 10 hours a day, but I'm not leaning on them. So that three-phase bill of $65, I'm not upset about. I will pay that. I paid it immediately. I got online on the bill pay and just take my $66, whatever it was. It's over on the counter. I could go grab it, but it doesn't matter. I printed the cab and everything, posted up a 3D printed body and told them what I used. Too stiff or fragile for a body. As long as the layer adhesion's fine, I don't personally think I would want to run a 3D printed body, but as long as your layer adhesions are fine, it's gonna crack. I mean, it is. It's gonna crack. Hard bodies, styrene bodies crack all the time, so expecting a 3D printed body not to crack is probably an achievement. PETG in the mail. I mean, I'm not going to even sit here and pretend like I know what filament I would use to 3D print a body, because that's not something I started 3D printing a Jeep body last year when Matt and Josh were doing their Road to the Scale Nationals videos, and just printing like the hood and the cowl area of the Jeep body that Matt ran for Nationals was 40 hours worth of printing. And when you start the thing on Friday evening when you leave the shop, and you come back on Sunday afternoon and it's still not done printing, you're just like, and that's only 2 pieces out of 10, and I can't wait for 3D printers. I've seen the new 3D printers that are stupid fast, but they're really loud, and I already have 3 loud machines running. Last thing I want's another loud machine running, really. So the router that I cut the chassis and everything on is the loudest machine in the shop. It basically drowns out all thoughts. I need to figure out some way to shut that thing up, but I also need to be able to hear it. I stay within earshot of it, because you can usually hear when something's about to go sideways. I've been cutting chassis with that same machine long enough that you can hear when about 10 seconds before something bad actually happens. So if you're close enough, you can get over there and rectify the situation before something gets ruined. But I'd like to shut it up a little bit because it's loud. I'm about to throw my Ender 3 across my room. Well, the beautiful part is they're only about $150 on Amazon, so throw it. Go Office Space on that thing. Take it outside, beat it with a bat. Just take video of it. Post it online. Make good content. Maybe a different 3D printer company will send you one for destroying a different one. I've got a Anycubic Photon Mono resin printer too that I used I don't know 4 or 5 times a year and a half, 2 years ago, and like it's okay. It seems like with a regular 3D printer, the more things that you put on the print bed, the more exponential the time it takes to complete. Where with a resin printer, you can fill the entire bed, and the only thing that dictates the amount of time it takes is the height of the parts. Whereas, like I said, on a regular 3D printer, the number of parts and the height of the parts dictates the time, because on a resin printer you're exposing the entire print bed at the same time, so it doesn't matter how many parts are on it. But unless you sit there and fiddle around with different resins, experimenting with what types of resins and what mixtures of resins you think are reasonably sturdy, and then you fiddle around with infill and hollowing and things like that to make the parts lighter. Again, I just didn't think it was a viable option for making parts to retail. So I use my Ender to prototype things like this, and then it would get sent off to be multi-jet fusion printed, and I wouldn't have to worry about it. Those SLS type and multi-jet fusion type printers the resolution's pretty good on them, and the part cost isn't that high. It depends on how many you order, right? Just like regular manufacturing, the more parts you order, the cheaper it gets. But a part like this, reasonably small, reasonably thin, isn't going to be an expensive part. So if I get 100 of these made, the cost is going to be per unit half of what it would be if I got 10 made. So I'll fiddle with this design maybe tomorrow, maybe in the next couple days. Anyway, in the next couple days at the latest, I'll fiddle with this some more and get some of these ordered up. Damn, keep dropping it. Body's only 3 pieces and the longest print's 12 hours. I mean, still, you're gonna have 36 hours, 30 hours minimum. By the time you get the body glued to itself, you're gonna have 36 hours in it, and then you got to sand all the layer lines and all that crap. You're gonna have 75, 80 hours in this body. It's props to you if you have the patience for it or the time to do it. It's fantastic. I'm not telling you not to do it. I personally have way too much ADD for that. I couldn't do it. There's no way. They're $190, and I'm kind of thinking about it because yeah. So you already looked up how expensive new ones are. Like I said, I would Office Space the hell out of my Ender. The first time I can't figure out why I had a failed print, that thing's getting Office Spaced in the parking lot, and I'm not even gonna feel bad about it. It's a couple years old now, and it's never failed me, so I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with it. But if it breaks, I'm not fixing it. I'll just get another one. I'll get something faster that isn't going to drive my patience crazy. I can't wait. Can't wait for printers. I don't know why, I just can't. I'll have to post pictures in the Facebook group when it's done. Yeah, do so. Definitely do so. Thinking about a resin printer. Well, like I just said, the resin printers are reasonable, but like you know, if you're trying to print a slider or something, they come out fantastic. Pause. Hang on. So like these sliders here and this TRX4 conversion skid are resin printed. They came out great, but this is just a regular resin and it's very brittle. So like if I were to drop this on the ground, the slider would shatter and they'll just be broken. I don't think I'll be able to show. So I drilled these aluminum pieces on the sides here. I drilled down in through the resin and tapped the holes in the resin after I printed them. And it's probably not going to show up on camera, but this, you can see this hole here is blown out. That's even just from tapping the hole. They're just too brittle. It just blew them out. The skid, dimensionally, they're fantastic, and they're very repeatable. So if you're prototyping to have something CNC machined, I think a resin printer, the resolution of a resin printer is fantastic for prototyping that type of stuff. But as far as like durability parts, that's not what I would want to use. I'm sure there are, I'm positive there are, I know there are flexible resins and things like that, and people are, you know, mixing this ratio and this ratio of these two resins and getting whatever. That's too much pissing around for me. Again, I don't have the patience for that. I would much rather just design the part, print a piece to verify fitment if I have to, and then have them either machine them myself or send them like Wesley would for multi-jet fusion printing. So that stuff's not crazy expensive either. Sending stuff to Shapeways has gotten outrageous in price. So we don't typically use Shapeways for anything anymore. Just they price themselves out of the market, I think. What else you guys got for tonight? We got about, I don't know, 10 more minutes till I'm ready to head home. Anything on topic, off topic you want to talk about? I don't care. Whatever. Type it up. Here is, again, we'll show it again tonight for the people who may not have been here last week. The Oracle chassis for the SCX10 Pro kit. I sent one of these to Wyatt, the engineer designer of the SCX10 Pro, and he got his installed. He said he liked it. I haven't heard from him after his comp that he went to this weekend to see how he liked it on course, but he said it went together well for him. For anybody who may be buying this kit, this chassis conversion, you will have to remove the spacers that go between the transmission and the forward motor mount. Just take them out, throw them away, and put a couple of screws in the top of the transmission where the spacers used to be to keep your transmission case from separating. The feedback I got from Wyatt also, he was running a Fusion censored brushless motor, and he gave me the dimensions of the can that he has on his. He's running a 58 millimeter long by 36 millimeter diameter canned motor, and the motor touches the transmission and it touches the upper link bolt, but he was able to install everything. So I guess some censored brushless motors may be difficult to install. So for that reason, I put a disclaimer on the website stating that we suggest brushed motor setups because things like a Fusion 2, like a 2-in-1 motor system is not going to fit. But it's also not the best choice for a comp truck either. So you got to kind of weigh your options there. Are you able to run shorter shocks on the SCX Pro? Noticed when I did, the spur made contact with the drive shaft. I could see if you ran a shorter shock, I could see that. With the stock shocks on it and on the Oracle kit, I've got the shock mounted in the lower position here, so the ride height is a little higher. I've got well, I can't really measure this. We'll call it 6 millimeters of clearance. So yeah, if this is a 90 millimeter equivalent shock and you run an 80 millimeter equivalent shock, then yeah, I could see you having spur gear clearance issues. But running the stock shocks, now that was completely compressed, 6 millimeters of clearance compressed. Did I see Tim's SCX Pro build? I did. I watched that video yesterday while I was sitting at the hospital with Grandma. Just waiting in the waiting room, watching RC car videos, next to people that were coughing all over everything. Sweet. Just how I wanted to spend my day. But, you know, gotta take care of Grandma. Yes, Wesley just chimed in here. C1 Pro kits, aluminum C1 Pro kits are in stock on the site as of today. Dual servo mounts are on the site as of today. I believe there are a couple of Oracle chassis. Let me check real quick. I put a couple on this morning, and I know a few sold. Where are they? There we go. There are 2 carbon fiber Oracle chassis left on the website. So if anybody's interested in one of those, there are a couple left on the site right now. So tomorrow when I get here, I will, again, like I talked about earlier, when I get here tomorrow, I will go through all pending orders and make sure that I have everything shipped like it's supposed to be. And then I will update inventory as far as carbon fiber C1 Pros and high-lows. I think I will. I'll get the other, couple of Oracle chassis cut and put on the shelf because I know they're going to sell. And then I will start on some other stuff. And then, like per usual, I have 5-ish sheets of carbon fiber coming on Wednesday or Thursday. It's kind of like a weekly rolling order that I order just carbon fiber sheets on Monday morning, and they normally show up midweek. So if I don't have things on the website tomorrow that you're looking for, it may end up being Friday before they're on the website. Any other questions about any of that stuff? I'm going to probably run this Oracle tomorrow night after work. It's supposed to be decent tomorrow night. Be the only night for the rest of the week that's going to be halfway decent. So I'll probably run this tomorrow night, and if I can get my Hyrax LPs mounted, I'll probably take the Class 3 out for a maiden voyage and see if I like these Hyraxes better. That might fall. Better than these Hyraxes. So here's a comparison difference between a standard 2.2 Hyrax and a Hyrax LP. Quite a bit of height difference. And then width-wise, it's about, I'd say 3/4 as wide. The LP is. So hopefully I like the LPs better than the standard Hyraxes, because I didn't really like that truck with the standard Hyraxes. What is, for a C3 build, would you do aluminum or CF for C1 Pro? My personal truck is red silk weave carbon fiber but that's not really available to everybody. So whichever you want, really. I don't think it makes that big of a difference which material you run. Whatever you want. I personally run carbon because I cut them in-house. And I don't have to beg Wesley for them. So for those that don't know, I do the carbon fiber and G10 manufacturing in-house here, and then Wesley handles the laser cutting of the aluminum components, and he also handles the multi-jet fusion printed components. So if I need an aluminum chassis, I have to beg Wesley for it, and if he needs carbon or G10, he has to beg me for it. So if I don't have to beg Wesley, I don't beg Wesley. I need some dual servo mounts though, Wes. Oh, the furnace just kicked on in the shop, so if you guys can hear that, sorry about you. That means it's getting cold in here. During the day, it's obviously winter here, so during the day I keep the shop about 68 to 70, depending on the day, and then at night it kicks down to 60. So the furnace just kicked on, which means it's about 60 in here. So getting a little brisk on my steel workbench table here. My arms are getting cold. Wesley works remote, yeah. Wesley has a full-time day job, and I don't, so it's kind of nice on my end as far as that goes. I get to screw off and make tiny toy truck parts most of the day. I finished up a couple of engine rebuilds this week late last week on a side-by-side and a street bike, so I actually had to do some actual work last week, but that stuff's done, so now I can focus back on RC stuff. What's the height on the LP? They are claiming 5.25. However, not mounted and with stock foams, that's coming in right at 5.22. So they're pretty close on their height. Harley, hear that? They're measured. They claim 5.25 and they measure 5.22. So I don't know if you've ever used a measurement device or not, but 4.19 means 4.19, and 4.75 means 4.75. There's measurement tools. You just have to guess. Yeah, 5.25. And the other higher axes are much larger than that, 5.75. Yeah, and these are measuring 5.78 mounted on a set of KMCs. So that measurement's pretty close too. You should get some gauge blocks and calibrate those calipers. Yeah, I probably should. You know what though, like, I would almost believe that you measured those tires if they weren't so far off. I think you guys calculated for shrinkage and it didn't shrink. Well, anyway, it's about time for me to head home for the evening, so if you guys got any more questions, post them up. If you don't have any more questions, I'm going to get out of here and go home for the evening. I'll be back here at 7:15 in the morning, and I'll be watching the Scale News at 8:01. Harley Designs, thank you for your hard work every week with the Scale News update. And Tim, TRD Adventures, if you're still in here, thank you for your videos. Custom RC Crawlers, thank you also for your videos. I do watch those as well. Anybody else's YouTube channels that are in here that makes content, please feel free to let us know, and we will subscribe and we will watch videos. So I've got a TV in the shop that it plays YouTube videos all day, and I will watch your videos and watch your channel. I gotta know who you are and what your channel name is though, because I'm not real good with the Googler to search things. So you gotta point me in the right direction. Danielson, you too, buddy. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for asking your question on the to the circuit board about the motor being visible on the Ford motor mount, because apparently that's an issue also that I didn't think about. So I will have to make some sort of a wrap or cover or something so you can't see the motor on that. So thank you also. I'm going to check out of here for the night. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you all for watching again, and I will probably be back next Monday to sit here on my stool and complain about tiny trucks.